Lieutenant Colonel Tony Monetti is a recent retired B-2 pilot out of Whiteman Air Force Base. His resume includes flying B-52s in Desert Storm, Director of Operations for the B-2, teaching young pilots at UCM, serving his community by rebuilding a family park, and partnering with his wife as a life coach. Tony is dedicated to serve his country, his family, and his community. I sat down with him and asked him to take me back to the beginning of his journey and how he became involved with aviation.
I've always had a desire to be part of aviation, and I think mainly it was from my grandfather. My grandfather, whose name happens to be the same as mine, Raffaele. You may not know that, but my real name is Raffaele Antonio Monetti. Well, my grandfather, Raffaele, was an initial aviator of the Italian Air Force. We're talking about back in the World War I and World War II days. And he was one of the very first Air Force pilots. And I think that really inspired me to learn more about aviation. So ever since I've been a child, it's something I've always wanted to do.
While discussing his career in flying, Tony asked if I wanted to experience firsthand what aviation was all about. Although I was a little nervous, I agreed. So Tony took me flying in a Cessna 175, and what an incredible feeling it was. Tony also told me he has been very fortunate to have flown some amazing aircraft.
Okay, I've been really fortunate to have flown some of the most exotic airplanes ever built by man. Probably the most amazing one being the B-2 stealth bomber. The B-2 is the most expensive aircraft ever built by man. Some people say it's worth up to $2 billion each. But besides that, I started my career flying a T-37s, the T-38, which is a supersonic trainer. It could actually spin around twice in 1 second. It has the fastest roll rate in the world. I've flown the B-52. I flew that during Desert Storm. I flew some combat missions there. And then I had the opportunity to fly the B-1, which is a variable swept-wing supersonic bomber. And then, of course, the B-2, the Spirit it's called. So besides those as my primary aircraft, I had other airplanes I've flown. I flew an F-16, I flew a MiG-29 in Hungary, an F-16 in Italy. I talked about a P-3 for the Navy in Sigonella. I flew a KC-135 in France. I've flown some really cool airplanes. I've been so lucky. But you know what? I love going faster than that sound right there. Whoosh, flying supersonic is awesome. But you know, I always like to say this is an attitude indicator, right? I always say your attitude, it determines your altitude, and your altitude determines your attitude. You know what I mean? So it really depends on what your attitude is to determine how high you're going to fly in life. And you know, I always say fly, baby, fly, right? So fly means, you know, always go forward, love life and live it fully, and say yes to new opportunities.
Tony has an obvious love for flying, including guiding others who also have a passion for aviation. Tony explains to me how he became the first Assistant Dean of Aviation at the University of Central Missouri.
You know, serendipity is what I would say is how I got involved with UCM Aviation. I happen to be a man of faith, and I just think that really God put me at this place at this time in my life, you know, because I had just retired from the United States Air Force for the second time. And then afterwards, I happened to have met our president, President Ambrose, and we were discussing the future of his aviation program, and one thing led to another, and they created this new position of Assistant Dean of Aviation and Executive Director of Skyhaven. And I really thought it would be a fantastic opportunity for me to share some of my passion in life, which happens to be aviation, with a lot of the students and the staff that we have here, and to take our program to a new level. And we are really blessed with a great team, and we've done some really cool stuff together.
The sky is the limit for Tony, and we look forward to see what he accomplishes next. I'm Lexi Roth with Central News.